Guys, back. Welcome back. L-39 Albatros. We're getting the rudder installed and getting the assembly done. So this is build video part 2, continuation of the rudder installation. And memory just ran on us on part 1. So we're going to go ahead and get this going again, guys. Yeah, you see I kind of made a mark there. It's only partially by accident. I am going to go ahead and carve out a little access here, which is painful to do. But here's the thing, you guys may need to get in there later, and I just as soon do it while I have easy, ready access to it. We can paint that. We can paint that red later if we want. Should be a pretty standard red match. It's not going to be that big a deal. And if it is, we'll go get a different red. It's not that big a deal. Okay, so we'll just take that servo and do it in our hand though to get this screw set. These little 5-gram servos. Don't over tighten stuff. You're not holding that much together, guys. Okay, so now throw that in the hole, and I say that to myself, not to you. It's just mostly out loud so I don't screw it up myself. Okay, so you can see what that access screw does, or what that hole did. I probably should have just stuck this in, heated this and stuck it in. It would have looked a little bit better, but you live and you learn. Okay. It is a whole heck of a lot easier to do that stuff while this is not part of the plane though. Which is why I'm choosing to do it now, because I really want to get out and fly it today if I can. Okay, just taking the red for now, just to color in that little spot. And who knows, here in a few hours, when we're done getting the maiden in and stuff, we might come back down here and get some more setup done. And that would include probably painting the servo red and all that stuff. So all this stuff's going to end up getting embedded in CA, so you end up with a fairly strong mechanism. And you'll actually strengthen this wing. So now you remember how I had that bamboo skewer? And we were talking about putting that in. Well, we never did actually put it in yet because we need to know where the wires are going to go. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I got to cut a groove to get me over to here. Okay. So you can kind of see how I did that. Now I'm just cutting it a 45 or maybe a little bit steeper. I'm going to take and cut again back toward my other cut. Take your blade sideways and you should be able to drag that little piece out. That is if you got cut deep enough to break it out. I'm going to use my bamboo skewer to do that. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with the way that looks. I want it to be a little deeper up here particularly. So rather than cutting more, I'm going to take this bamboo skewer and I'm going to run it backward. I'll just open up the hole a little bit with some pressure. Plus that'll pull out any material that didn't get pulled out earlier. Okay, so here we go, just like that. Remember, the CA that covers this all is going to make this actually quite strong. And that little spot there, watch this guys, you'll be surprised how good this will work. Just a regular run-of-your-mill red Sharpie. Nothing special, nothing fancy here, guys. Pull that thing out, take the marker, run it down the opening. Stop it where you want the red to stop, of course. Okay, easy. Then over here, we'll just color that pocket from the back side there. Now this could compromise your bond a little bit if you paint it, so that's why I'm using a marker, as opposed to using a thicker enamel paint or something like that that's going to totally compromise. But the thing is, what that's going to do is that's going to, where the material shows through, it'll show through as like kind of a close match red. to make it look nice. Now I won't be able to get all the way down in that crack, but that's okay, because I'll get the spot that will be seen. You could also do this too if you wanted, but I think I'm going to probably leave that, because I don't know if I want that to be red or if I want that to be blue. To be honest with you, it looks okay white, so I'm going to leave it, because it's between the two color points. Okay, very good. Alright, so these things we're not using on this application, so we can get this out of the way. We're not using a lot of stuff on this bench for this application, so we get a lot of stuff out of the way later, but we'll get rid of it later, after you guys aren't watching. We missed one spot on this cable because it was buried at the time, or trying to be buried. Okay, so we'll just touch it up with the marker, carry down to the same spot, just a little bit of marker in there. That's everything you need to do to get that match to color. Okay, very good. Now you notice this isn't centered now. That's because when we were tightening the screw, it kind of took a different position. Now let's see how this fits. Look at that, guys. That's going to work out nicely. It doesn't look perfect, but it looks pretty good. It'll look fine for what we're doing too. Okay, so now we got to get a control arm in here so we can transmit the movement from one to the other. And that's why I haven't glued in the servo yet, because there's no sense in gluing the servo. And now we could do hot glue to hold this in too, but I'm not 100% sure if I want to do that or if I want to do CA yet. I think CA is probably the way to go. And we'll hang on to this plug for now. Okay, so just thinking for a second, we need to have some wire. I got wire sitting out already, which is nice, because we have to build a little adapter. Now you could use something like this in that wing, but I actually have a bunch of that sort of thing here that might work better. And these ones kind of are my go-to usually. This little style, Hobby King markets those, and they seem to work pretty decent. But you know, on something this light duty, I've got another choice that might even work better. And these are the types of things that you get when you finally make that weird order to China. Because the Chinese, now these would normally not be ideal because they're so weak, but it could be perfect. Here's your part number. Don't like the color for this application, but I like the shape and I like the click-on style. Let's see how they look. They're very long, you know, but if you're doing a control arm this long, you'd want something that's not so flimsy. Well, the thing is, you can poke a hole in there wherever you want. I think that's the ticket right there, guys. Or is it going to be deep enough to get through? Well, it would be at the back. I don't think it's going to be thick enough at the front, though. Tough call. I got one other choice that might be better. Let's just keep that out for now. That's our choice one. Here they are. Ooh, those ones might be good too. These ones are very light, which is possibly good. Here's a part number. Okay, so there's one choice. And you see how that works. There's just not much to them. And what you would do is you'd poke that through, and it looks like we might be pretty darn close to reaching through. See, we're not quite there, but by the time you compress that foam a little bit, you might be able to get it. Just not 100% sure that's our thing, though. I got one other idea. I'm going to pause it. I'll come right back to you. Alright, guys, this is what I was thinking of. Right here, they're real dinky. You can see the part number there. Okay, so what that part number gets you is, I think it's a pack of 10. And what you do is you just take this thing and you just stick that into your foam, which works fine if you don't have a lot of torque requirement. So we'll try that first. You see how simple that is? Now that's obviously you're going to use some glue too, but that works real nice. But the thing you can do too, alternatively, is you can take and slice, and then you can slide that thing through from the backside there, and that gets it'd be about perfect on this application. But it didn't penetrate through the other side, so let's try this first. And if we have a problem, we'll take our knife, we'll put it sideways, and we'll slice it through from the other way. I use these all the time on flaps on my UMX projects. Okay, now one complication here is that you're going straight up against paint there. So you want to make sure you get some of this glue. In this case, we're going to use CA. You want to make sure you get the CA into the hole. Okay? And don't use kicker yet. Make sure that CA gets down in that hole. So you got to really get it in there. I know there's probably a few of you guys rolling right now, but that's okay. Just one little kiss of kicker. Don't screw with it, you'll take your finish off. And then you'll have to find a bunch of good matches. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go along the edge just like this. Just spread out the load that you are generating with that servo movement, okay? I don't know if you guys saw what I just did there, but I squeezed some fresh glue out in case I picked up any kicker inside the tube of my glue. Okay, so we'll see how that works. It looks like it is maybe a little bit far out, but that's okay. We'll see how it works. Okay, so now the next step is going to be just one more little kiss of kicker. And then we got to bend a wire, which is not going to be hard. It's going to be very easy, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to pause it and get this other junk picked up. Alright guys, so we got a little bit of our junk picked up there. Just checking, make sure there's nothing weird about the way that leverage is going to work. And now we need to get a wire going here. And the wire is going to be pretty straightforward. I was just going to show you, this is the instruction manual that comes with it. It's pretty straightforward. Not a very good print quality, but not like you really need a lot of instructions for this thing. I looked at them for like 2 seconds just to make sure there wasn't something weird. Okay, so I get this wire at my local hobby shop. Precision Metals, stock number 497. This is 1 millimeter. You could do smaller here, but let's see how it fits the hole. Yeah, it's a little big actually, because we're not going very far. We can get away with less. Okay, so we'll actually do a little bit less. I need to get some more of that. You get like 5 or 6 pieces with each one. Okay, so this is 0.81 millimeter. That'd be the next logical step, I think. But I have a bunch of little pieces in here that have already been cut. And so I'm going to just scooch this back. We'll dump those out and see if we got one that we can use that might be appropriate already. Because these little pieces are the pieces you'll never use. They're just like super little. Like that. They were bent for another project and you just, for some reason it didn't work out. Or maybe it came off another plane that got crashed. Some of these look like that one there would be close. And these ones I've bent for other projects. It looks like that came off of a plane. There you go. That one looks good. I like that. Got a little bit of glue built up on the end there. Not a big deal. And I think we're going to probably warm this up and try to feed it through the hole where that glue is, because I got to get the glue cleaned off of it anyway. So we'll just heat it up real quick. Make sure you're not going to catch anything above it on fire. Heat it up. Okay, push it through quick, pull it back out. That'll open up the hole nicely for you. Now this thing, I'm not sure if I want to go here with it or if I want to actually take one of these holes. Well, I'll probably take the middle hole for now. Do the same thing, heat it up. You can use a drill if you want, but I've just found this works real nice. I favored that back. Now I'm going to cool it by bringing the cool half through and just all the way through, because that stuff's a lot thinner and junkier, so you don't want to overdo it. Okay, so now, since this is fairly small, it should be a pretty easy bend. I like using these bent needle nose pliers. They work really nice for bending these things, because they keep this from bending. See, it wants to bend a little bit still, so you can go up into that bend point. Then you get a really just a ton of leverage on there. Okay, so now you'll bring this up. You can do this about as tight as you want. You bring it right to the edge there. And you see what I've done? Then you can fold it back real nice and tight. Then you might need to take and finish off a bend a little bit up here, but that's no big deal. And I always like to try to put a bend in there. See, that's already cooled off. I always like to put a little loop in there for adjustments later, for mechanical adjustment. Okay, so just find your midpoint. So your midpoint's right in front of my thumb there. Just grab it and give it a little bend up. Just check as you go. If you don't check as you go, you'll get burned. I'll give you that guarantee. Okay, so now we're going to fold this back over on itself. So we want to go about halfway down to this bend point. See how we're not quite square yet? Now we're a little bit past square. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's a little bit too much adjustment in my opinion. So I'll bring that back like that. And then I'll just use this to square box, make a box out of it. It could be an angle. It can be a nice little triangle. It can be a box. It can be whatever shape you want. Bearing in mind this weighs a little bit more than doing it with just like a V shape. But it's really hard to adjust a V-shaped one, I've found, especially when they're mounted on the plane already. If you take them off, you can adjust them. Okay, so just remember, just check as you go. And yeah, you can buy a Z-bend tool, but we just did like 4 things that the Z-bend tool doesn't do. And we did it with like a cheap pair of pliers from Harbor Freight Tools here. So you don't have to have something fancy, although you can have something fancy if you want. I don't care. Nothing wrong with having nice tools. Okay, so now this thing isn't centered anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hook this back up. We're going to turn our radio on, throttle cuts on, as a good discipline thing. Unplug that, put it out of the way. We don't need to bind it again. Plug this in. Plug this into any channel really, but we're going to go to the rudder, which happens to be right there. What the heck happened there? Oh, I'm in gear. See how it's in that position, guys? That's because the gear's one way or the other. There you go. Okay, so that's why we did that. Now we can go ahead and keep building. That's our piece we're building. So we'll slip this in so it's coming in from the top side. Now we just want to kind of get the alignment here. Now remember, you got an adjustment, so if it's not exactly perfect, it's not the end of the world, you know. It's not like this is the final call. Okay, so I'm just going to hold on to it nice and tight. And I'm just going to keep that more or less. Well, which way do I need to bend that? Do I need to bend it? I need to actually bend with the pliers this time. Okay, so I take it down, and like I said, just check as you go. Make sure you're not like really far off. Okay, so now this one I need to have a real tight bend so that it comes back into this it's thin. you know, compared to the servo control horn. It's probably half as thick as the control arm on the servo. So you need that to be a real tight bend, or it's gonna have too much play on it. Okay. So the trick I found that usually, but not always, works is to kind of bite it there and then get your bend started, because it's always the initial bend that's the worst, and that's what tries to separate your needle nose pliers from one another. Okay, then you can get up in there and hold it. See, it's wanting to spin my pliers. So you can use another pair of pliers to hold them too, which also works well. Well, I shouldn't say it works well, it works. If it works so well, you wouldn't need another pair of pliers. Okay, so I'm holding it real tight. And remember, these are like, seriously, like $3. The whole set of them was probably $3 from Harbor Freight. They're total junk. And anybody who has tools understands what I mean. I don't mean any disrespect to people who buy $3 tool sets, because I'm one of them. But I do know that they're junk. Okay, so not crazy about the angles on that, but I think we'll be okay for what we're doing on this. I'd like this to be more square. So I'm holding that real tight, guys, and I'm going to bend it, get it square, and then I'm going to take and I'm going to try to hold this with another pair of pliers, bigger ones, just overwhelm them with pressure. Okay. You could also put that in a vise and just hold it as tight as you want if you wanted to go that route. That's the other method that would work for sure. Okay. So now obviously we need to trim this, so we're going to do that next. I can get some safety glasses on. Okay, we're at 22 minutes in. Going to be about 30 minutes on ending this video. See how strong that stuff is, guys? I can assure you of one thing. This stuff is usually not the weak link. Usually it's breaking because of a crash. And usually the crash is because of us. Not always, but sometimes. That was just a final little bend. Same thing here. Just a final little square up. Okay, so now we can plop this in here. Fold it. Sorry guys, safety glasses are fogging up. And then since this is still loose, we can actually pop that out. And we can make our angle neatly. Okay? Then we can stick this back down in here. So now at this point, once we test and make sure everything moves free, we can go ahead and actually, we can trim this and we can glue it. See, I'm going to go ahead and trim this just a hair. I want to get the alignment just perfect here. Now these are smooth, so be careful using those to do those adjustments, because they'll slip if you're not careful. Okay, cool. Now remember, this is not a real sturdy servo, so don't expect it to move mountains. It's not going to. It'll move a servo that weighs 1 gram. There you go, guys. There's your rudder. Pretty cool. Okay, so next thing goes, we're going to go ahead and turn this off. You can see the light shut off. We're going to unplug power from our electronic speed control via this old broken ESC. Lay this aside. And the next thing you know we're going to be doing is gluing this stuff together. And to be honest with you, we got an extension cord, and then once we get the extension cord back, the rest of the install on this plane is just so dang simple. It's just a simple plane. But if you haven't built one before, I suppose it's kind of nice to have help. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll use medium CA. Now that we know where this wire goes, we can also verify that that's going to come out where we want it to. It's going to come out fine. I'm not crazy about being in the ducted fan area, but we're on the outlet side, and so we'll probably just tape this to the bottom or put a couple of drips of CA to keep that where it needs to be. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get a little CA going in there. Let that work its way down in on the sides, right here. And then wherever we left a gap from lack of skills, just let that work its way in. Make sure you're kind of flush on the backside too. You don't want to have it poking through unevenly. It's not going to, it's just a little teeny bit thicker. And we can take off those Hextronic stickers if we decide. Plus, I was thinking we might use some red electrical tape when we're all said and done with this. Just barely any. As little as you can get away with on this. Anytime you're working on a painted surface. Very sparing. Okay, see, I cut at an angle, so I got a nice little groove there to receive some CA. Guys, I know you think I'm full of crap, but this thing is going to actually be stronger with the servo in here than it was without, because remember, foam is very weak. Servos are very made of plastic. They're strong. So remember, when you cut in a servo, you're going to increase the strength. You're just going to add weight. Kind of a lot. This is probably 7 or 8 grams we're adding to this plane. It's not an overly heavy plane, but 7 or 8 grams well spent in my opinion. Okay, so you see how I kind of outlined it there? I'm going to just do the same thing here. Just give it a quick outline. Now there's one thing I don't want to do, and that is come to trust and depend on a control surface working and then have it fail. That's the worst. But we do have ailerons and rudder on this plane, so we have redundant primary control surface, which is important. Okay, so now hopefully we don't need to at this wire again anytime soon, because this is going to be covered up, and you know what this is going to do, guys? It's going to strengthen our wing just like we did earlier. Okay, so now we're going to take that and we're just going to give it a kiss kicker. Just like that. We're just going to let it, and that'll actually make it kind of smooth almost. And right now it looks kind of ugly because you can see the servo real easy, but once we cover it up, you won't even know. So far, so good. Happy with it so far. Okay, so now while we're down here, I'm going to probably go ahead and do a couple of drips of CA. Don't go overboard with this. You just want it to hold it. So kiss the kicker on the wire only, and then go ahead and stick that down. You want to kind of push it down with your thumb. Try not to get your thumb glued if you can avoid it. I got a little glue on me. I'm going to try to wipe it off. I hate taking CA off later. It's always at the end of the day when I'm done working. It's always super late. Okay, cool. So that thing is part of the wing, and I just want to demonstrate to you. It's no more flexy than it was before. In fact, it's quite a bit less. And I'm not just blowing smoke, guys. It is quite a bit stronger. So I'm a little bit nervous about sticking more weight in here if we don't need it. But at the same time, I am a little bit nervous. Just the general strength of this thing was not very strong before. And you see how this thing's split up here? I'm just going to get a different one. I got a bunch of... These things are so cheap. They cost like... Well, my wife gets them. I don't get them. But they're super cheap. They're a couple bucks for a bundle of like 100 of those. That bend's a little bit of a pain. Just trying to get everything square. That looks pretty close. It's not perfect, but I think I'm just going to ram jam this thing, guys. I thought about using a drill, but I don't think I want to waste my time. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of eyeball this, and you'll be amazed how much strength you'll gain by just doing a little bit like this. Now the worst case scenario is it breaks through the side, chops into your fingers. Okay, see, I got it coming out the side there. So now what that means is you probably have to renegotiate your entry point. And one other trick you can do that works real nice for this, we're at 29 minutes about out of time here. You can go up to your light source and you can just kind of follow your light source. You can also feel before it gets out of there. Okay? Just watching. Need a little bit brighter light. Alright guys, I think we're going to call it for now so we don't run out of memory. Thanks a lot for watching. We're going to continue this L-39 build. And when I say build, I mean assembly. Because this is not a stick-built plane, in case anybody's watching and they're scrutinizing the words that I'm saying. All 14 trillion of them. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And part 3 is coming real soon.